Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unlocking the vault on a deeply unsettling and tragic mystery. It's a case that's often referred to as the American Dyatlov Pass. We're talking, of course, about the deeply baffling story of the Yuba County Five.
So, picture this. 5 friends drive home from a basketball game on what should have been a completely ordinary Friday night, but they never make it home. Months later, they're found dead on a freezing mountain that they had absolutely no reason to be on. Why? Well, that haunting question is right at the core of our explainer today. It sets the stage for a bizarre series of events that literally defies all logic, and honestly, still baffles investigators nearly 50 years later.
Section 1. The Yuba County Five. Who were the boys? Jack Madruga, Bill Sterling, Ted Wire, Jack Hewitt, and Gary Mathias. Ranging from 24 to 32 years old, they were known warmly by their families simply as the boys. They all lived with mild intellectual disabilities or psychiatric conditions, and they were universally described as gentle, dependable, and highly structured routine followers. To give you an idea of how literal and trusting they were, Ted Wire actually had to be dragged from his bed during a house fire once because he was terrified he'd be late for work if he didn't finish sleeping. I mean, these were absolutely not risk-takers. They played for the Gateway Gators basketball team, and the very next morning was a massive tournament. If they won, the prize was a free trip to Los Angeles. So they had every reason in the world to make it home safely for the biggest game of their lives.
Section 2. The Vanishing. February 24th, 1978.
So, that evening, they all piled into Jack Madruga's turquoise and white 1969 Mercury Montego and drove about 50 miles north to Chico to watch a college basketball game. Around 10 p.m., they stopped at a little grocery store called Bear's Market to buy some post-game snacks, sodas, candy, cartons of Nook. The clerk distinctly remembered them, and this is actually the last confirmed sighting. The next morning, the men fail to arrive for their huge basketball tournament, which obviously prompts a massive panic. Days later, a forest ranger discovers their missing car abandoned deep in the Plumas National Forest. Now, what's incredibly vital to note here is that after grabbing those snacks, they should have been driving 50 miles south, straight home to their beds. Instead of heading south, their car was found 70 miles away in the completely wrong direction. It was high up a winding mountain dirt road, right at the snow line, around 4,400 feet in elevation, and Jack Madruga's own parents explicitly said he absolutely hated the cold and had never even been up into those mountains.
Section 3. The Pristine Abandoned Car.
When police found the car, it was just nosed into shallow snow that 5 healthy young men could have easily pushed it out of in a matter of minutes. The keys were missing, which usually suggests someone locked up to go get help, right? But the car was left unlocked with a window rolled down, which was totally out of character for Madruga. Even weirder, it wasn't broken. When police hotwired it, it started immediately, and it still had a quarter tank of gas. But perhaps the most baffling part of the whole shebang, the undercarriage was completely pristine. There were no dents, no gouges, no mud, not even a scrape on the low-hanging muffler. It's a massive contradiction. Think about it. A car supposedly driven miles up a rutted, potholed mountain dirt road in the pitch black by someone who didn't know the area, yet it's left in pristine condition and abandoned while perfectly functional.
Which leads us to ask, why would 5 men abandon a working car to march uphill into a freezing forest? They were wearing light jackets. They had absolutely no supplies. They could have simply walked downhill, back the way they came, toward a lodge they had passed, and towards safety and warmth. Instead, for reasons we still just don't understand, they walked deeper into the dark.
This brings us to a really chilling piece of testimony. A man named Joseph Shawns was parked nearby that night, stuck in the snow and actively suffering from a heart attack in his car. He testified that he saw headlights appearing behind him and a group of people gathered around a car. He called out to them for help, and they instantly went silent. They switched off their flashlights and just hid in the dark. This haunting testimony suggests a group matching the boys' description actively hid from someone begging for help. But if it was these 5 kind, helpful men, why on earth would they go silent?
Section 4. The Survival Paradox. The cruelest discovery.
19. That's the number of miles from where the car was abandoned. As the snow melted in June, motorcyclists stumbled upon a small Forest Service trailer at a campsite, an agonizing 19 miles away on foot. Inside, they found the broken body of Ted Ware.
And we really need to think about this heartbreaking paradox. Consider what was available in and around that trailer. A fireplace with matches and paperback books for kindling, heavy forestry clothing, a massive locker with a 1-year supply of dehydrated food, literally enough to feed all 5 men.
and a butane tank connected directly to the trailer's heating system. Now, consider what was actually used. The fireplace remained unlit. The heavy clothes stayed folded. The massive locker of dehydrated food was never even opened. They only ate about 3 dozen sea rations from a different shed. The butane valve was completely untouched. Ted Weher slowly starved and froze over a period of months, entirely surrounded by the untouched tools that could have saved his life.
The details of this scene are just devastating. Ted Weher's beard growth showed he lived roughly 13 weeks in that trailer. He lost nearly half his body weight and his feet were severely frostbitten. But here's what's incredibly vital. His body was carefully laid on a bed and wrapped in 8 sheets, covering his head. With his ruined feet, he couldn't have done that himself. Someone else was clearly in that trailer caring for him. By his bed lay his wallet, rings, and an unidentified gold watch that didn't belong to him or any of the 5 men. Over the next few days, searchers found Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling 11 miles from the car, deceased from hypothermia on opposite sides of the road. Jack Hewitt's remains were found further up near the trailer. While 4 of the 5 men were eventually accounted for on the mountain, the state of the trailer and that strange gold watch proves someone else was surviving alongside Ted.
Section 5. The Missing Man. Theories and Gary.
Gary Mathias is the anomaly here. He was an Army veteran living with schizophrenia. By all accounts from his doctors, he had been doing incredibly well and was perfectly stable on his medication. But cut off on a frozen mountain for weeks, that medication would have run out, plunging him into unknown psychological distress. His tennis shoes were left in the trailer, and the sea rations were open with a military can opener that really only he or Madruga would have known how to use. Investigators believe Gary likely survived the longest, put on Ted's shoes, and wandered out into the wilderness to find help. To this day, his body has never been found.
Let's dive into the most grounded theory we have right now. Step 1. They might have taken a wrong turn near Oroville on the way home, trying to swing by and visit Gary's friends in Forbustown. Step 2. Getting stuck on that mountain road and making a catastrophic decision out of fear. Step 3. The day before, a Forest Service snowcat had driven up that road to clear a trailer roof. Investigators think they might have seen those tracks in the snow and followed them, believing they led to immediate shelter. And Step 4. Finding the trailer but being so utterly terrified of breaking rules or getting arrested for stealing that they barely touched the survival supplies. The very careful rule-following nature that defined their entire lives ultimately helped end them.
But, as you can probably guess, this theory still leaves massive gaping holes in the story. It entirely fails to explain the pristine undercarriage of a car supposedly driven up a rocky mountain pass. It absolutely doesn't explain the missing keys. It doesn't explain why they actively chose to walk uphill into the freezing woods instead of down toward known safety. It doesn't explain the strangers going totally silent in the dark when Joseph Shantz cried for help, and it certainly doesn't explain that mysterious gold watch sitting next to Ted Weher's bed. What you should really take away from this explainer is the profound, heartbreaking tragedy of these 5 gentlemen. It wasn't a reckless adventure. It was an ordinary night out to watch a basketball game that spiraled into an inexplicable nightmare. They were good men who simply wanted to get home for the biggest morning of their lives, and instead found themselves completely undone by a night that has never made sense. So, I want to leave you with this lingering question. Given the mysteriously pristine car, the unlit fire surrounded by matches, and those silent figures in the dark, what truly happened in the freezing dark on that mountain?